Okay, my name is Susie Cox, and I'm 57 years old. I lived in Muscatine, Iowa, United States, but I was born and raised in Singapore. I am thankful to my older son, Tom, who is doing this video about my life and my weird encounter supernatural experiences growing up. So this is my story. Well, my father was born in 1913 in China, and my mother was born in 1916 in China. And my father was from the Tong'an province, and my mother was from the Jingmen province. The Jingmen province is close to Taiwan, and Tong'an, I don't know. And my mother was married before, but her husband died of diabetes, of TB, tuberculosis, and she left with 5 kids, a single mom. And because the life was really, really hard, so she has to give one child away. And it left her with 4 kids. And my father was from a very rich family. They were the landlord in China. They owned land. His mother, who's my grandmother, was was one of those that she bind her feet. So her feet was only this big, about 4 inches big. And she weighed about 250 pounds. And because in China, when you were very rich, you bind your feet. So my father was the oldest son, and he was supposed to inherit all the land according to the Chinese custom. But then they started the Japanese war, and then my father fled to Singapore. Well, he was captured by the Japanese soldier, and he was he was a POW of the Japanese soldiers. And he went through a lot of torture. And he told me that he had witnessed how the Japanese torture the Chinese. And so my father was an athlete when he was younger. So he escaped the prison camp, and he swam across the China Sea and landed in Malaysia. And then when he landed in Malaysia, somehow he made his way to Singapore, and he was already had a wife with 3 kids. But when he came to Singapore, I don't know how he met my mom, but they both fell in love, and so he married my mom. And so my father had 2 wives. And at that time, my mom was with 4 kids in Singapore, single mom, and my dad has 3 kids and his wife. So my mom became the second wife for my dad. And when my mom and dad got married, then they gave birth to me and my sister Sally. And so my father, because he was escaping the POW camp, that he changed his names. So my father have 2 surnames. So one surname is Lim, and the other surname is Ng. And when he married to the first wife with the 3 kids that time, his surname was Lim. So, and then when he married my mom, his surname was Ng, because he married his first wife the time he was in China. That was before he was captive. And when he married my mom, that was after he escaped. So anyway, my father have 2 wives and 5 kids, plus 4 kids from my mom. And then we got 3 different family names in our family, because my father and his first wife and the kid's name was Lim. And he and my mom, the surname is Ng. But my mom's children from the first marriage was Yo. So we have 3 family names under one roof. And it created a lot of hassle. a lot of problem because the brothers don't get along because of the surname. So there was a long-standing dispute. Alma's background, my mom's background, my mom was like a more like a slave girl. She was very poor, and then when she married to her first husband was a, for what I know, her first husband was a very hardworking man and really loved her, and took really good care of her. But because of the disease, the TB, that he died very young, and he left my mother with 4 kids, with 5 kids and one given away. So when my mom met my dad, my dad was very rich because his family was a landlord. And then when they came to Singapore, they escaped the Japanese. During the war, they came to Singapore, and then they invested money in Singapore. So they have land in Singapore. And so my mom and dad, they actually fell in love, and you know that's what I know. Well, my father's first wife and the 3 kids and my father, they live in the same house, but my father and my mom has another house, and that's where my sister Sally, me, and 4 of my mom's previous marriage, the children from the previous marriage, we all live together. And so Akong, my father, will basically have to go back and forth to the first wife and then to Amma. But because he loves my mother so much, he spent most of his time with my mother. And so he only go to his first wife and see his kid like maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks. And my father loved to drink. He was kind of like an alcoholic. And so every time that when he go to see his first wife and the children, they always like, you know, drinking and partying and stuff like that. But the Chinese partying is not like an American partying. It's just partying means that, you have a lot of food, you have feasting, and you're drinking. And then as the children grow up and get older, they were already grown up adults. And Singapore government was trying to expand the land to build skyscraper. And so they offer my father, I believe back then, I think it was in the 1960s, the Singapore government offered my father $1.5 million to buy the land so that they can, turn the land into skyscraper and, develop Singapore. And my father refused to do that because the land was given to him by his parents. And so he wanted to treasure it. And plus, the land, we got a lot of fruit trees. And so my father refused to. And his children, who is my step brother and sisters, one time that when my father went over there, and then they got my father so drunk, and that my father passed out, and they took my father's hand, the thumb, and do the thumbprints on the contract, on the Singapore government's contract, that agreed to sell the land for the $1.5 million. But when Akong woke up the next day, they told him that he agreed to sell the land, and Akong, my father was really really upset because he didn't want to, and so they kicked him out. So after they got him do the contract, they kicked him out, and he has no place to go, so he came back to my mom, and so he was staying with my mom since. He never go back there, and then my step brothers and their mom, they sold the land to the government. They got the money, and then they bought business and redeveloped their own family. While my father lost everything and was settled with my mom. And by that at that time, my mom has her own 4 kids, plus me and my sister. So it was 6 of us, and life was really hard because my father and my mother was working really hard to raise 4 kids. So that was a little bit of my parents' background. Well, my mom told me that I was born at 10:30 at night, and she told me that the night that she told me when she was pregnant. Well, first of all, where they lived close to the cemetery, and because the Singapore weather was so hot and humid, and plus, during that time it was a monsoon season. And so my mom used to like cannot sleep in the house because it was so hot, and they have no air conditioning because they were living in a like a wooden hut at that time. And so my mother would like go to the nearby cemetery, and then she always go to this one huge tombstone that which with a marble floor, and she would sleep there on the marble floor on the tombstone because she felt cool and it comforted her. And she told me that night that when she was in labor, while she was sleeping there, this it came the storm came, and it was thunder and lightning and pouring down rain, and she was in labor, so go she cannot go back home because she was in labor. And my father was looking for her because of the storm, and my father was concerned. So my father went to the cemetery to find her and saw her on the tombstone in labor. And I think that my father got her home, and and they did not make it to the hospital. I was born. So my mother always told me that I was born in the cemetery. I don't think I was born in the cemetery, but she was in labor when she was in the cemetery. But I think I was born in the house. So, and apparently that I was a very cute baby. My mom told me that I was really chunky, and at that time I will be. It would make me the sixth kid of my parents, and they were very, very poor. My dad was working for it was they call it the goolie. Goolie was the hard labor. Hard labor. They they unload ship, and or they carry the cargo and stuff like that. And my dad was a very hardworking man, and my mom my mom just had a hard time struggling, trying to feed all the six kids. And so my dad told me that what happened to me one time was that there was a British couple that came to Singapore. They do business, and then they also came to Singapore to look for a baby to adopt. And somebody told him about my mom had just given birth to a new baby, and the baby is about 6 months old, and which was me. And somebody introduced my mom to this British couple, and they come to the agreement that my mom will sell them the baby, which was me, and I don't know for how much. So they agree upon everything, and the day that the British couple was going to leave Singapore on the ship, they will carry me with them, and somebody know the news went to tell my dad, and my dad hurry up home, found out from my mom the truth, and he ran to the ship. Just as the British couple got on the ship was going to sail off, my dad went to them and snatched me out of their hand. And then my dad went home and disciplined my mom for trying to sell his baby. And my dad told me that about 35 years later, that my dad tell me about what happened. And he was very, very regretful because he told me that he was very selfish. He should have let me go with a British couple because the British couple was very rich. And he felt so sorry. He apologized to me for destroying my future because I could have a better life. But instead, I was suffering with them all the way through my childhood and growing up. So then, and then my first home, I remember when I was a child, the government was going to rebuild Singapore and make Singapore a modern country and everything. And they set villages on fire. And I remember that when I was about 5 years old, my village got set on fire. We lost a home and everything, and we ended up have to, shelter in the local primary school. And because Singapore was a British colony at that time, so there was a lot of English soldier was taking, was taking care of us. So I remember that when I was about 5 years old, every night I would take my canteen, like a metal cup, and would go up to the soldier, and I would speak in English. That only one word I can speak, nene, which means milk. And I would go to the soldier and I would tell him, nene, nene. And so he would give me some condensed milk so I can drink them and go to sleep. And then I remember that when I was growing up, I was a tomboy. I become really, really tough. And I have gangs. I have a lot of kids follow me. And I do a lot of fights. I used to beat up kids. And my mom, actually, that before I went to school, that my mom cut my hair like a boy, and she would dress me up like a boy. And every time that in the neighborhood, people always laugh at me and told me that you are a girl and not a boy. But to me, I believe that I'm a boy. But everybody always tell me that I'm a girl. And sometimes they would tell me that, well, we saw you pee, you squat, you didn't stand. And so they told me I'm a girl. So anybody told me that I'm a girl, I would beat them up. I'll give them a bloody nose. So and that's how I was grew up. I was like a local child gangster. But at the same time, all my dad's friends call me Buddha baby because for some reason I had a very strong psychic ability as a child, growing up already. And personally, I believe that maybe that has something to do with my mom sleeping in a cemetery. That maybe I'm the reincarnation of the rich old lady that died there. I don't know. It just comes, just a thought. But anyway, my dad always have, his friend come over in the evening, and then they will be like, have a couple of beer and, kind of like chit chat and stuff like that. And every time when his friend come over, they will ask me, hey, Lei Hong, come here. Lei Hong is my Chinese name. What is the lottery number going to be tomorrow? In Singapore, we have a daily lottery, and and that usually is only two number. And they always ask me to give them to tell them what is the lottery going to be tomorrow. And then I always able to tell them what it's going to be. It's like a prediction. And when they go and buy the lottery number, they always win. And so they're all very impressed with me. So they call me Buddha baby because only Buddha had the ability to predict. So I become a very well-liked child among the circle. And my mother will always the same thing. She will ask me to give her the lottery number, or she would tell me to draw the number by hand to give it to her. And they treat me like I'm some kind of a golden child with a special psychic ability. So I was the richest kid in the block because every time when they win the lottery, then they will tip me. So when they tip me, I got money, and when I have money, everybody follow me, and those who follow me, I would treat them with candy. And those who do not follow me, do what I say, I'll beat them up. So, so that's how my childhood was. That's how I was growing up. Yeah. But then at the same time, I was a very obedient child. I was a very, very good kid. And then my father, well, then I went, at 9 years old, my mom signed me up for the primary school. But because my mom was late, because you cannot go to school anymore, you have to register before you turn 9. Like between 7 and 9 years old, that you got to go and register for school. But because my parent was kind of poor and, with 6 kids and a lot of, that's just too much to handle. So for some reason, that my mom kind of late to register me for school. And my mom was panicking, because I have to go to school. And then one of her friends told her that, oh, in this one school that where all the prestige people from Singapore came from that school, and like a prime minister, millionaire, very famous scholar, very famous prominent people came from that great school. So they told my mom that, why don't you go take your daughter there and talk to the principal. That maybe that principal is kind enough to take her. And my mom was like, there's no chance because she's 9 years old already. So no school is going to accept her because she's already too old. But my mom took the chance anyway, and I remember that day my mom took me to the school to meet the principal. And when we go meet the principal, and the principal looked at me and he asked me a couple of questions. He asked me what's my name and how old I am. And I told him, and he said, okay. And he told my mom to wait outside. I mean, I was scared to death, and my mom was very nervous. So when I was in there, the principal told me that, hand me a piece of paper and color pencil. And he told me, he said, I want you to draw me something that make you very sad. I was only 9 years old. I never been to school. And I said, okay. So I drew an old lady selling flour who was very poor, and her clothes got a lot of patches because she was so poor that she cannot afford to wear a nice clothes. So her clothes were torn and with patches on, and she was carrying a basket of flowers. And that was a picture that I drew. And I give it to the principal, and the principal looked at it and say, wow. So he called my mom in and he said, your daughter can start school on Monday. He accepted me because he saw my talent, that I was a gifted child. And so he accepted me in that school. And my mom was really ecstatic because that is a school that is almost impossible to get in because they are so prestige. So I went to the best grade school in Singapore. So after I got accepted in the very prestige primary school in Singapore, I was there for 6 years. And the principal is very strict. And it's public humiliation and punishment is the key to keep the student in order. So if you have a test score that is below 60, you are subject to a public humiliation and punishment. What they do is that during the assembly of the whole school, and the principal will call the name of the student who failed the exam to the stage. And when you go up there, the principal will announce your score and what subject that you fail. And then the principal will tell you to stretch out your hand and will hit your hand with a cane. And trust me, that hurt really, really bad. I've been up on the stage a few times because I got my exam score was below 60. and after that, the whole school will be laughing at you because the principal will announce your name and it's almost like you're a criminal that committed a huge crime. And everybody will laugh at you, and everybody know that that you failed your test or your exam. It's a very, very humiliating thing. But we learned our lesson. The next exam, we better learn, we better study, so that we don't have to get on the stage and be punished. And get our name announced to the whole school. So I graduated from there after 6 years. Then we have a choice of going to whichever high school you want. Well, I mean the junior high. So then I was sent to the girls, Singapore Girls Vocational High School. But it's a junior high school, I think so. I don't remember. But anyway, and that was only for girls, no boys. So anyway, throughout my childhood that I grew up, I was like I say, I was a very obedient child. And my parents later on then owned a fast food restaurant that my dad will open the restaurant from 11 a.m. until probably 1 or 2 a.m. And so we take shift. My dad will be doing the afternoon shift, and then my mom would do the evening shift. But a lot of time, I will be there to help. And basically, I was the only one that among my other 5 siblings, I was the only one that go to the fast food restaurant to help. So I was working there from when I was 9 years old until I was 20. So for 11 years, I was working in the restaurant, and I learned all kind of skills. And many times that my parents, when they have an argument or when they were fighting, then they left. Each one go their own way, and they just left me alone in the shop. I had to wash all the dishes. I had to clean out all the tables, put all the tables away. I had to wash all the pots and pans, which is altogether probably about 200-300 pieces of dishes. I have to wash them, clean them, count the money, and then close the shop and walk home at 4 a.m. in the morning, all by myself at the age of 11, 12, 13, all the way through until I was 20. And I never was afraid that I might be attacked or that I might be kidnapped or jumped or anything like that. Why? I don't know. Maybe I was protected by the angel. So when I turned 20, I met a guy from Australia, and I fell in love with him. And he was twice my age. He was 42. I was 20. But he was a very, very, very nice man. He was like the first love of my life. And when he left for Australia, I was about to die. And I wanted to go with him, but I couldn't because I don't have a passport. So I told my dad that to give me a passport. And my dad, of course, he refused. So I told my dad, either you sign me a passport, or when I turn 21, I'm going to get my own passport and you will never see me again. Because I was so madly in love with my boyfriend at that time. His name was Michael, by the way. So anyway, my dad got me a passport, and it took me 6 months to get a visa from the Australian consulate. I went to Australia for 3 months. I was staying in Bathurst, close to Sydney. And my boyfriend and I at that time that we were building a house for sale because he's a constructor also, and plus he was a Mercedes dealer. So I was riding around with a Mercedes, yes. But anyway, when we built the house, he proposed to me and he told me that, well, that house is named for me, that if we get married, the house is sold, the money will be mine. Because, anyway. Then my brother was getting married in Singapore, and my parents, they want me to come back for my brother's wedding. So when I go back to Singapore for my brother's wedding, I did not get a chance to go back to Australia again, because then I took a trip to Germany for vacation, to visit my friend Lee because she was my pen pal. And then when I went to Germany, that's when I met my first husband, Wolfgang. So I was like, and Wolfgang was younger. He was 4 years older than me. So again, I fell in love with him. So I have to decide whether I want my 42-year-old boyfriend or I want my, you know, matching age boyfriend. Well, and Wolfgang and I, we corresponded after I left Germany. I went to Germany for vacation for like a month or so, and then when I go back to Singapore, then we corresponded and everything, and things just grew and grew and grew, and then he proposed to me, and so I said yes, and we got married. So we first got married in Germany. I flew to Germany, and then we got married there, and then we came back to Singapore, and then we got married in Singapore. So we have like two weddings, one Chinese wedding and one German wedding. And well, of course, my boyfriend from Australia was very heartbroken, but somebody got to give. So anyway, and after Wolfgang and I got married, then I was conceived during the honeymoon in Allgäu, in Germany, and that was my first son, Tom. And so Tom was born, and he was the first grandson, from Wolfgang's family, and so he was treated like a prince. And my mother-in-law, that we call her Oma, she just absolutely loved Tom because Tom was the first grandson. And so she is like spoiled Tom to man. Whatever Tom wants, she gave him. We had a very, very interesting life, very good life for about 7 years in Germany. But we have some marital problem, Wolfgang and I. And Oma was kind of like, I guess that she's just a little overprotective or something, and so plus they came from the Hitler's background, and they were kind of my father-in-law was very prejudiced. So I was always tested of my intelligence. They always test to see if I'm smart enough. Opa always tests me with a mathematics skill, and like a Rubik's cube. Opa always challenged me to how fast I can put the Rubik's cube together. And the great-grandmother one time that was making a huge comment about me that the Chinese people are Neanderthal. And that was just, wow. I was so offended because I was like, Chinese people are the smartest people in the oldest history in the world. But this old lady tell me that we are like Neanderthal and we are like cave people. So anyway, in Germany, in the family, I suffered quite a bit of racism and prejudice and things like that. So one day I was telling Wolfgang that either he's going to protect me, speak for me, or I'm going to learn the language and I'm going to defend myself. And that was really hard for him because he told me that he cannot against his mother because he loved his mother and he cannot against his mother. So I understand that. But anyway, I start to pick up German. I start to learn German, and I learned German within 3 months. I was able to speak fluent German and understand and everything. And so I don't need Wolfgang to defend for me anymore. Every time when I suffer the prejudice or something like that, because German people are very proud people. Well, so I told Wolfgang that so one day the Oma came to me and um, came to visit me, and she I remember when I was 5 years old that we were living at a nice story in Singapore. We have all these skyscrapers, and we were living in a nice story. And my mom asked me to go downstairs, which is about like about maybe a quarter mile, to this provision shop. It's something like a little grocery store, but in Singapore we call it provision shop. And my mom tell me to go there to get some oil for cooking. As I was going down, I don't know, I think I was very smart, apparently. As I was walking to the provision shop, there was a gang fight happened on the way. And all these gangsters was throwing light bulb and bottles and machetes was trying to kill each other. And because they throw the light bulb, because the light bulb, during those old times, the light bulb has mercury. And so, if you got hit by the light bulb, the mercury will burn you. Anyway, I took no attention to the gang fight. I just walked straight through the gang fight, go to the provision shop and get oil, and walk back. And my mom heard all the gang fight, all the commotion out there, and she looked down from the ninth floor where we live, and she was scared to death, and she was screaming for my name to tell me that to hide somewhere because the gang was fighting and I was right in the middle of the gang fight. But supernaturally, amazingly, I was not hurt. I was not touched. And there was no scratch or anything on me. I walked to the provision shop, get the oil, and I walked back without a scratch on me at all. So we moved from that place to another apartment. By then I was about 7 years old. And my grandmother, who I love so dearly, was about 250-pound big lady. But because she was from China and she was very, very rich, she was from their own land. And in China, if you're a rich woman, you bind your feet. So my grandmother came from a generation with a foot bound. And her feet was about maybe 4 inches long, and she bind them. But, because she is 250 pounds, she cannot balance her body. So when she walks, she has to either walk with a cane to support, or most of the time, she just, I'm her, how to say, I'm her support. She would lean on me, and she would like hold my right hand, and she would lean on me so tight. And she wear this like a jade bangle, and she always put her hand so deep on my right hand that my right hand always get bruises from her leaning on me. And one day that my grandmother told me that, to go with her to this one lady's house about 5 blocks away from my mom's house, that to collect money because my grandmother lend this lady some money. And I went with her, and as we get to the lady's house, the ladies who live in like a government flat, and it's kind of like a really low income flat where they share the public toilets. My grandmother said that she has to go to the bathroom, so I took her to the bathroom, and this lady came follow us in the back, and she saw that as my grandmother went into the bathroom, in Singapore the bathroom is at the toilet. You don't sit. It's like you squat. Okay, they put the toilet bowl on the floor, and then you have to squat. And the lady took the chance and pushed my grandmother, and my grandma fell because she lost the balance, and her head hit the toilet seat, the toilet rim. And I was scared to death because I witnessed the whole thing, and I ran out and screaming for help and screaming for people to come, and people came over, and some people went to public phone and called the 911. Well, actually, Singapore is 999. And they transported my grandmother to the emergency, and later on, my grandmother died. So, and I witnessed the whole thing that the lady killed my grandmother because she pushed her. And I told the police what happened, but the police don't believe me because I was a child. After my grandmother passed away, it is a Chinese custom that we burn all of the dead person's belongings. So my dad and my uncle was burning my grandmother's belongings, like clothes and stuff like that, as they were going to take her bed to outside and to burn them. They accidentally tear the mattress open. And what fell out of the mattress? It was millions and billions of Japanese yen. Apparently, my grandmother has slept on the money all her life because she went through the depression during the Japanese War and all those things. And when they came from China to Singapore, they sold their land and everything. They got so much money. And when the Singapore government was announcing about the inflation, that to exchange the Japanese yen into the Singapore dollars, my grandmother refused to do that. So she stuffed her mattress with millions and billions of yens, Japanese yens. So as the mattress tear open, all the money fell out. I remember that I took a stack of money, and the note was about this long, about this wide, and the top it's got a 1, and I don't know how many zero in the back. I don't know if there's a 1,000 yen per note or 100,000 yen or maybe 1 million yen a note. But during that time, all those money was useless. So they have to burn it. They have to burn everything. Then when I was about age 10, when I was about age 9, my mom enrolled me into a very prestigious Chinese school that I was taught to learn the very traditional and conservative Chinese culture. And the school and my house is about, I would say, 10 blocks to walk. And I have a choice to either get a bus, catch a public bus to go home, or I can walk home. I usually choose to walk home with a few, classmates. And we have to wear uniform in school. And so that my parent, when they have, one time my parent was going to buy me a pair of new shoe, which is like a tennis shoe, something like that. But, because, when you are like poor and stuff like that, you buy your uniform or your shoe or anything that you need, your clothes, you always buy 2 sizes too big so that, that you can grow into it and then they can save money. So my mom bought me this pair of tennis shoe was 2 sizes too big. I walk like a clown, like a duck. So, and One day, as I was walking home, I was going to cross the street, and when I put out my right foot, just simultaneously, this is the strangest thing, simultaneously, a pickup truck drove past me, right in front of me, and drove over my feet. I mean, my right foot. The pickup truck drove over my right foot, and nothing touched me. The mirror or whatever thing did not touch me. I was okay. But when the pickup truck drove past, I realized what happened, and I looked down. I got about this much of my shoe in the front, got the tire track on it, and the shoe was kind of like cave in a little bit. That was this much was the two sizes too big of my shoe, and the pickup truck the pickup truck drove past it. Did not hurt my feet, did not touch me or anything. It was actually funny that when I looked down, I saw my shoe got a tire truck on it. So again, I escaped from the danger. And when I was still in school, in the grade school, my mom, sometimes she come and pick me up, and then when we like get home on walking on the way back, my mom sometimes would stop like on the roadside, like a little hill, like a little slope on the hillside, and on the roadside, my mom would be like picking herbs that she used it to heal people's like muscle ache or sprain or stuff like that. And so one day I was walking home, and I thought that well, maybe my mom will be very happy if I bring home some herbs for her, some medicinal herbs. So I was like picking up herbs on the roadside, and I go climb up the little hill to pick up herbs and stuff. I did not notice that behind me was a rapist right on my tail. He was trying to grab me, and he got my feet. I lost one shoe. I climbed the hill as fast as I could and screaming for help. And when I got on top of the hill, with the rapist right behind me, when I got on top of the hill, I screamed and I screamed, and people came out. And when the rapist saw that people came out, he got scared, so he ran away. And I got rescued. Thank God. Once again, I escaped the danger. And I was about 11 at that time. Then about 14, I used to go, a bunch of us, me and my classmate, and a bunch of us, we used to like to go swimming on the weekend. We go to Sentosa Island and just picnic. And one time that we went to the picnic at Sentosa Island, that my girlfriend, one of my classmates, that went swimming, and we did not know that the lagoon was like the slope just suddenly like go in like this, and so my classmate drowned, and as she was drowning, and nobody do anything, and I saw that she was like struggling in the water, so I ran and I swam over to her, and I wanted to rescue her because I could swim, but I don't know how to rescue people. But anyway, I felt that I could. So I rushed to her and I tried to rescue her. But instead, she pulled me down. And then, I don't know how long that I was in the water with her. We were struggling in the water. And I don't know how long or what happened. Then I saw that, lifeguard came, and somebody took her, and somebody took me out of the water. And by then I was kind of like half and lost like consciousness. I was in and out consciousness. So all I know is that the ambulance came, and the ambulance had to take me to the boat, a ferry, and then with a ferry across to the mainland in Singapore, and then from there they sent me to the emergency room in Singapore. So in bikini and all completely wet. So Maybe covered with some seaweed. I don't know. But anyway, so again, I escaped the danger. And I was 14 years old. And my parents in Singapore, they own a like a fast food restaurant. I used to help my parent in the restaurant. I started to help my parent when I was 9 years old until I was 20. So the first 11, so for 11 years, I was working in the fast food restaurant to help my parent. And there's a lot of time that when my mom and dad got an argument, or when they have a fight, then they each just go their own way, and they don't care about the restaurant. They just left the restaurant to me. So oftentimes when my mom and dad, they just, my dad left and my mom left, and then it just left me. And I alone in my early teens, I have to take care of the shop. I have to close the restaurant. I have to do all the dishes, clean all the pots and pans, clean out the restaurant, count the money, carry the money, and walk about 2 blocks home in the morning, about 3 or 4 a.m. And you know what? Nothing touched me. It's like the angel was with me all the time. However, one time I was at my parents' fast food restaurant, and there was a gang fight. Because in Singapore at that time there was a lot of gang fights when I was growing up. And there was a gang fight. And I saw there was 3 guys stabbing this one guy. 2 of them hold this guy against the wall, and the third one stabbing him many times. And I was witnessing it because it happened right in front of me. I was frozen. I don't know what to do. I couldn't even scream. And I quickly ran inside to my parents', restaurant and like to hide or something, because I was traumatized. Then this guy who was stabbed, stumbling, trembling, came over to us and tried to say something, and then turned around. He's trying to walk home, like across the street or something, and he collapsed on the street. And I was like, I don't know what driven me to do that. I ran up to him while he was on the floor, and he was gasping for air, and I felt like he was going to say something. So I leaned my ears against him and tried to hear what he has to say. But I cannot hear what he has to say. He passed away right in front of me. And then I look at his face and I realized that, oh, wow, this is my friend. I mean, not a friend, but like an acquaintance that he used to come to the restaurant and eat. And I was so shocked. And at that time, my dad came over and dragged me, pulled me out of there and dragged me home. And I don't want to go home. I told my dad, I want to talk to the police. I want to tell the police what I see. And my dad said, no, you are not involving because they're afraid of retaliation. So until this day, I never forget what I saw. That the guy, a friend of mine, got stabbed right in front of me. And as I grow up, I always had that supernatural, like, if you want to say psychic power, because as I was a kid, my parents always asked me to give them a lottery number. And then they would take the lottery number and they would go and buy the lottery, and they always win. And when they win, they would tip me. And so I was, I grew up with, doing well because they always tip me. And then they call me Buddha baby because I somehow have that psychic ability. I can predict things. And anyway, when I was about 16, 17, that one evening my mom and me and my sister, that we went to like a fast food place to eat, like a food court, okay? And then out of nowhere came this old lady. And she just came to our table and she began to tell us our fortune. She's a fortune teller. And she told my mom that, that she saw my mom, that when she passed away, although that she has 4 daughters and 2 sons, but there will be only 2 of her children on her side. And then she told me that, that my life is like a pink glasses, that I always have 2 men in my life, that that is trying to fight for me, that you know and like I always have 2 men there to take care of me. And she told me that if I get married, I will be married overseas. Now remember, I was only about 16 or 17. So, and I did not get married until I was about 22. And this old lady told me that if I get married, I have to marry overseas, otherwise bad things will happen. And she also told me that if I get married, my husband has to be either very young, much younger than me, or much older than me. If I marry somebody with the ideal age, and according to the Chinese custom, an ideal age is 4 years old. Okay, like the man is 4 years old or 4 years older than you. That is a perfect match. And the old lady told me that if I marry a man that is ideal age, it will be a divorce. So of course I don't believe her during that time when she tell me all this thing. So guess what happened? When I met my first husband, he was 4 years old, 4 years older than me. Wolfgang was his name. Wolfgang and I, we were like a perfect match. I mean, he was the best husband in the world. He was a very good father. And he's the father of my older son, Tom. The only bad thing was that his mother was very controlling. Wolfgang's father was a Hitler soldier, and they were German, and so they were very prejudiced. Anyway, Wolfgang and I, we fell in love, and so we got married, and then Tom was born. But before that, let me see. I go back to the part that, okay, I was working in my parents' restaurant and all that. And at the same time, I went to school. And so a lot of time I just sleep for a couple of hours, and then I go to school and then come back and then, go to the restaurant and work. And then that's how I was growing up. I really, don't have much like fun thing or do like fun thing like a lot of American children do. Because I was working in my dad's restaurant from 9 to until I was 20 years old. Then I went to Australia, my first adventure. Yeah, so when I was growing up, I have one goal, and that is I want to be a beautician. So I went to Christian Dior Beauty School, and I was a very excellent student. So I did learn, beauty. I was trained to be a beautician. But during that time, it was about 1976, 77, I was absolutely gorgeous. I have silky hair, and, I'm tall for Chinese. I was about 5'4" and 5'4", and I was about maybe 115, 120 pounds. So I was a very, very gorgeous, exotic, tropical beauty. My instructor told me that, my instructor always feel like, I have a lot of quality to be a model. And so she wants to promote me to become an international model. And she was going to promote me, but, the training will be in London with the Christian Dior. And at that time, I was only about 19 or 20 years old. So my instructor went to talk to my dad. Because in Singapore, you have to be 21 to be able to sign your own documents. And you cannot fly anywhere without a passport. And I cannot get a passport unless my father signed a passport to me because I was under 21. So my instructor went to talk to my father about that, and my father said, no way. She is my youngest daughter. She is my princess. She's not going anywhere. So that dream failed. Otherwise, I don't know. For me, I believe that, everything happened in your life for a reason. So I almost become a international model. So anyway, I was kind of rebelling at that time. Then, I was really angry and upset and everything. And then I met this, wonderful guy who is a Austrian, but he lives in Australia. And he invited me to come to Australia for vacation. And so I told my dad that sign me a passport so that I can go to Australia. Otherwise, when I turn 21, he will never see me again. So my dad signed me the passport. I got a passport. I went to Australia for 6 months. That was wonderful. And then I came back to Singapore for my brother's wedding. And then after that, I went to Germany because, I just want to travel. I went to Germany for vacation because, I have a pen pal. Because at that time, I have a lot of pen pals. So when we don't have internet, stuff like that, we write letters. So I have a pen pal that, her husband was working for the Lufthansa airline. She's a German. And so she invited me over for Christmas in Germany. So I went to Germany for about maybe 6 weeks. And that's how I met my first husband, Wolfgang. And when I met my first husband, Wolfgang, we just like love at first sight. So we both fell in love, but then I have to go back to Singapore. So when I go back to Singapore, we continue to correspond with each other. And then he proposed to me. So he came to Singapore to marry me. And we got married in Singapore. And then I fly back to Germany with him. And we got married in Germany again. And then my older son was born. And I realized that, love alone is not enough. Although that Wolfgang loved me very much, and he was a very good husband and a very good father to Tom, but his weakness is his mother. So because of his mother, our marriage was very, it was hard because, it was racism and prejudice, and because, his mother and his father have so much Nazi background. So, Hitler background. So, anyway, that was a pretty tough time for me because of the discrimination. But I survived. So, anyway, so years went by, and the marriage just, we did not have a marriage because we have quite a bit of personal problem and things like that. But then finally, things got worse, and we realized that we put a lot of stress on my son Tom, so we both have to be civilized. So we both agree that, it's better to just get a divorce, so that everybody can find your own happiness. So we both were civilized people. So we both go under the divorce with one lawyer, one judge, one day, that's it. There was no fighting or anything, screaming, yelling, no nothing. We just agreed that because, the marriage just don't work. And, my ex-mother-in-law has a lot to do with it. The whole discrimination thing and the racist thing, it was just way too much. So I experienced my first discrimination and racism in Germany. And then after my first marriage failed, I met my second husband, who was American GI. And again, but during that time, I was more like in the self-destructive mode. You see, because I have never wanted to have a failed marriages or something like that. Because as I was growing up, I have only two dreams. One, I want to be a missionary, to go to the poor country to help poor people, the poor children. Two, I want to be the best wife and mother in the world. So I only have two dreams in my life. That's what I want to be. Whichever way that, God take me. So my first marriage failed. To me, I felt like a failure. So I was kind of like fall into the self-destructive mode for a period of time. And I met my second husband, who was a GI. I fell head over heel in love with him because he was so young. He was 9 years younger than me. And he was so good looking. He looked like John Wayne, the young John movie star. And I just head over here in love with him because he speak English. And in Germany, I don't get a chance to speak English. Only time I speak English was with with Wolfgang. Other than that, everywhere you go, you speak German. And I miss my culture. I miss my language. I miss everything. So that was very tough time. That was very tough, for culture wise, And then all my family are in Singapore, so then the only man that I rely on, do not have the is unable to defend me from his family. So anyway, so we got divorced, and then so when I met my second husband, Bob, I got a lot of warning because he was a GI and he was a troublemaker. So I got a lot of warning from his captain, his roommate, his best friend. Everybody told me that, you better run because this man is a troublemaker. And I don't believe them because I was so stubborn. Unless I see it with my own two eyes, I don't believe that things what people said. And so we got married. And wow, what a ride. Well, make long story short, we got 3 kids together, which is Sarah, Anthony, and Michael. And the marriage lasted for about 6 years. It was a lot of violence. Another discrimination, racism, prejudice that I go through. And because I married Bob, so we moved to the United States. That's how I come to the United States. And it was a marriage from hell. Yep. But there was a lot of betray, cheating, everything else. But I don't want to go there, It's done, it's past, I forgave, and it's over. Now Bob and I, we get along in front of the children. The kids are growing up, so praise God. But anyway, we got divorced. When Bob and I, we got divorced. When I become a single parent with 4 kids, I don't know how I'm going to make it. My family all in Singapore. I don't know how I did it. Now, I know. Now I know because God was with me all the way through. All the way through. Anyway, let me talk a little bit about my supernatural experiences. Like I said earlier, somehow I got this gift of prediction. I have a gift of see vision and dreams. I'm very sensitive growing up. And I remember that during the time I was in Germany, I have all kinds of strange encounter. My first husband, Wolfgang, his grandmother loved him very much. And, sometimes, if I'm like not nice to Wolfgang or something or what, that his grandmother always get me in trouble, because Wolfgang is like like her baby. And so when the grandmother died, weird things start to happen to me in the apartment that we live in. And one day I woke up and I noticed that I had this bruise on my lap, on my thigh, about like this big, and it's a circle, and in the center of the bruise is a black heart, like somebody pinched me and twist so hard, and it looked really weird because it was about the size of a silver dollar. And I never thought anything about it. I just, wow, where did I get a bruise from? The first time when I noticed that, I just kind of, oh, well, maybe I bumped myself somewhere. But I touched it, it don't hurt. Just only the big old bruises. Okay, so let it be. And then the next morning I woke up, I got another same kind of bruises, but this time it's under my arm here, which is even weirder because this is not the area that where you normally like accidentally bump into something, but it was really like somebody had grabbed me, pinched me, and twist me, like really really hard. But again, there is no pain. It's not sore, but it's just really really weird and exactly the same kind of bruises like the one on my thigh. And that happened continuously for, I don't know, for a while, until I got so scared. And one night Wolfgang literally asked me, when we were sleeping in the middle of the night, he said, Mommy, wake up. He called me Mommy. Wake up, wake up, wake up. And I said, what? And he said, do you see it? I said, see what? He said, there's a lady standing by the door, at the bedroom door. And I look, I said, no, I don't see nothing. I said, don't scare me. And he said, no, there's a lady standing by the bedroom door. I was so scared. I hid myself under the blanket and I was scared to death. So anyway, and then Tom was about maybe 8, maybe, I know that he was less than a year old. And every night he would always have a nightmare. And then, he would be screaming and crying. And then I would wake up and go and check on him. And he would point on the ceiling and say, Geist. And Geist in German means ghost. But Tom can't even say any word yet, but he will say the word Geist. And that was just really, really scary. And then another encounter that one time, Wolfgang and I was sitting in the living room and we were watching TV. And I was knitting. And all of a sudden, I passed out. I just felt so tired. I don't know what happened. All I know is all of a sudden, I passed out. And Wolfgang was sitting right next to me. And it's almost like 10 or 15 minutes later or something. I woke up. And I asked Wolfgang, I said, what happened? I said, what happened? Okay, now what happened to the TV? You know what I mean? Tell me what's continuing. I think I was watching Dynasty or something like that. I said, what's happened? And then as we were talking and stuff, and I felt kind of like, my leg was kind of itchy. So I kind of lifted up my pajamas. And oh my goodness, I have a handprint on my thigh, on my left thigh. So big. Like it's not my hand. The hand was about 1.5 size of my hand. the handprints on my lap that is so got blister on it, like literally blister, like somebody scorched me with a hot iron. It was so creepy. And the handprint got 6 fingers. It was so clear. And I was shocked. And I told Wolfgang, I said, Puppy, look, what happened to my leg? What happened to my leg? I said, get a camera. So we took a couple of pictures of the incident with my hand right next to the handprint. It was clearly shows that it wasn't my hand, because the handprint was at least 1.5 size larger than my hand. And after the incident, after we took the pictures of the handprints on my leg, on my lap, about 5 minutes later, it completely disappeared. It was no longer there. And until this day, we still have the evidence of the handprints on my lap. We have the photo still. And after the incident, I was like, that's it. I am not staying here, and I'm not staying in this apartment. I'm going to Singapore. Because I thought, something is haunting me. And I was pretty sure that it was maybe Wolfgang's grandmother. So I left for Singapore and thought that, everything is going to be okay now. I'm about 15,000 miles away. No. Because one morning I woke up and boom, what do I see? The same kind of bruises. And this time it was on the side of my belly. And I start to get really scared. So I called Wolfgang long distance and told him that, can you please go to your grandmother's grave and tell her to leave me alone? And can you please bring her some beautiful flowers and tell her to leave me alone, to stop haunting me, that I'm sorry if I have treated you badly or something. So, and Wolfgang did that. And apparently after he done that, then everything stopped. I never get bruises anymore. Until I married Bob, and we moved to Iowa, and we were living at this farmhouse. And one night, I was pretty sure that it was an alien abduction. I cannot prove it. I can only tell you what happened. And I remember that night we were all sleeping, and I woke up because from some flashing light, and I thought that was police car, because the light was so bright, they're flashing outside my window, my bedroom window, because we live in a farmhouse that was there was not another house until maybe half a mile down the road, and in the back of our house there's there's an old barn, and then other than that, it's all cornfields. And so I look out the window and I saw, wow, all this flashing light. And I was like, what are the police doing in the backyard? What are the police doing at the barn? And at the same time, when I have all this doubt, all of a sudden, I saw I believe it was like 3 of them, the aliens, that walked through the windows of my bedroom, and they came towards me, and I think I wasn't sure it's like 3 or maybe 4 or maybe 2. I don't know. I don't remember. But anyway, then they come and they stood next to me, one on my right and one on my left. And I was so surprised because on my right side is Bob, my ex-husband, at that time he was my husband, was sleeping on my right side. We have a king-size bed. But how did the alien stood in between us on the bed? I don't know. It's almost like the bed just split in half. So one alien stood on my right and one alien stood on my left. And they started lifting me up. And I was totally frozen. The strangest thing was that I am totally conscious and I'm totally aware of what was going on around me. I even remember that I looked at the clock and it was about 1 p.m. 1 a.m. And they started lifting me up. I was completely frozen. I cannot move. I can, and then I thought that, and then as they move me out of my bed, and they walked past my, we went past my older son Tom's bedroom, and I trying to scream out for Tom to get his attention, and I couldn't even scream. I was completely frozen, and then they carry me out of the window, because suddenly there was no window anymore, but there's like a I don't know, like a tunnel or like a walkway or something like that. And then they carried me through that, and I passed out. I don't remember anymore. All I remember that it was a blue, red, and white light. And I passed out, and next thing I know, I woke up in my bed, and I was like, wow, was that a dream or what happened? I don't know. It was like a really weird feeling. So I woke up and I was like, whoa, I'm getting up. I said, what? I don't know what happened, but all I know is I need to get up. And I look at the clock, because I always have a habit of, if I get up in the middle of the night or anything, if I hear a noise or something, first thing I look is the clock to record the time. So I look at the clock, and it was about 5 o'clock, 5 a.m. I got up. I couldn't sleep, so I got up. I went downstairs, and I started cleaning the house. I was so charged with energy at 5 a.m. in the morning. I clean the whole house. I do laundry. I fold laundry. I do everything. And then by then it's about 7, 8 o'clock. I cook breakfast for everybody. I bake. I have no idea what happened to me. All I know is I was so charged with energy. Like I have slept for 20 hours or something like that. And so I woke up, and then I went downstairs, and it kept sticking to my head that about the alien that I saw, because I remember what they looks like. They were kind of like grayish, greenish blue, slimy. I remember really clearly that what they look like. I don't remember that they have like a big eye or whatever thing, but I know that they are grayish, bluish, greenish, slimy. And so I remember that my oldest son had to have a set of encyclopedias. It's called the Timeline Encyclopedias. And they have like some UFO and an alien, explanation in there. So I went to get these encyclopedias with the UFO and aliens, and I looked in there, and I saw that the aliens picture was in there. Not 100% it looked like that, but 97% looked like that. And I was completely shocked. And that experience, I never forget until this day. I'm pretty sure that I was abducted. Well, so I remember when I first got to Germany, I was living in this apartment building, and I don't speak German. I only can understand a few words like Dankeschön, Tschüss means goodbye, and Wie geht's means how are you. And one day, as I was going to go to the grocery store, which is like half a block away from where I live. And as I went, I live on the 3rd floor. And when I came to downstairs, and I ran into the janitor, the caretaker of the building, the custodian. So, he was talking to me, and I was just like, yeah. I don't understand what he was saying. I would say, okay, choose means bye. So I left, and I went to the grocery store and get my grocery. It's like about 20 minutes, half an hour later, I was walking back home, and there was police car and ambulance and yellow tape, and I was like, uh-oh, what happened? I just left the house. What's going on? So as I go near it, the police officer told me that no. They speak German to me and say, no, you cannot go in. And I say, no, I live upstairs. I got to go home because I got to go and fix dinner. And then as I was looking in the door, the entrance, and there on the floor, laying horizontally, was the caretaker that I just talked to about 20 or 30 minutes ago. I was so shocked. Apparently, the minute I left, he dropped dead behind me, got a heart attack. So, well, anyway, and I was so shocked, and I told the police officer, I said, I got to go upstairs, got to go home. And because the dead body was laying horizontal right there by the entrance, the officer told me, say, well, you will have to hop over him to go to get to the stairs. I was like, I am not going to hop over the dead body. The officer said, well, that's the only way you're going to be able to get to the stairs and go home. So I was so scared and I was shaking and oh my gosh, it was the scariest thing. And they haven't covered his body, so he was laying there dead. So the officer hold my hand and I jumped over the caretaker's dead body, and by then I was my knee got soft and I couldn't walk and I could not climb the stairs. I was crawling on the stairs. My knees, my hand, and my feet. And my grocery fell all over the floor. The strawberry was all over. My egg was broken. And I was struggling to climb up the stairs. That was probably the most horrifying moment of my life. That, seeing a dead body right in front of me and have to jump over the dead body. That was a very interesting encounter.